Peak Prosperity founder Dr. Chris Martenson has produced a video aligning two audio sources for the horrific event that nearly took out our dear leader 45, only nicking his ear, instead by the grace of God. Dr. Martenson contends that there may be two assailants, not just the one who went by Thomas Crooks. So this video today is intended to provide commentary on Dr. Martin's analysis and to see if we can conclude that there indeed were two rather than one source of fired ammunition for the event. So in overview, this is the position of Thomas Crooks, and here are the positions of the victims. This is the stage where Trump stood. If there was a second assailant, presumably that individual would come from either this area here, somewhere within the trees here, or up the water tower. These are the positions for the counter snipers. Dr. Martenson analyzes audio from two sources, located here and here, on this image corresponding to somewhere here and here. These locations are important for the argument, which I will soon present to you. So now we'll go through some of his clips.
We're going to look at these first three shots here so you understand how we can analyze the rest of them. And so here's the shot. This is the sonic crack. So that's the bullet is the blue arrows, and then the report is going to be the black arrows. So that's the crack, crack, thump, crack, thump. And of course, it was the first bullet that nicked Trump's ear. And again, let me get my thing here. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, so now I've just isolated the sound. There it is. Okay, whoops, sorry. One last time just to make sure we're hearing this right. So that 0.22 second gap between the crack and the thump is very important because it helps us identify that a gun is being shot from that distance. If there were any other lengths, like if we saw a crack, thump, crack, thump, we would clearly see that that was two separate weapons because assuming the first and the last crack thumps were the same distance apart.
So first we'll listen to the audio from this vantage point, which we'll describe as the first audio. I'm going to play that now.
What happened?
So as you know, there are two clusters of shots, with the second cluster having more shots in a time interval. So we'll do the second location now.
Important because now we do not have a lone gunman anymore. Okay, so listen up. Here we go. And then that one more. That's the 6 I'm unclear on. Let's listen to this again. Muffled, and then, right? That's what I hear. Oops, sorry, don't have my thing. You don't know what I'm pointing at. This is the 5 that, here's 1, 2, and 3 to start. Okay, listen to that again. And one more time. Okay, now let's listen to the next string. Ooh. 1, 2, and 3, besides being muffled and further away, it doesn't have echoes. So this here's a shot. This is an echo, very clearly an echo, and a shot in an echo, and a shot in an echo. So this is actually critical evidence because you hear that, there's echoes coming off. So that also allows us, again, to analyze where was this gun. But first up, we just have an absolutely different sound between the first 3. There's no echo. It's much further away. It's more muffled. It's just not in the same place at all. But these next ones, very different sound.
So my contention is that there is a reasonable explanation as far as why these two volleys sound different from each other. Before I present my case, I'm going to scroll towards a later part where he compares the time intervals. So here he lines up the audio sources between the first video and the second video vantage point. Okay, so listen carefully.
First timeline. This is the video number 1's audio, and I've lined it up with video number 2's audio. And for the most part, we're in pretty darn good shape, right? Here you can see, so this is the supersonic crack. So that's the crack of the bullet arriving. And I've lined that up with what I did. I just shifted the timelines to line up with, this is the report of the gun. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gun plus a 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've lined up that first blast of the gun with the arrival of the bullet so that it should be consistent, because if you have the explosion, the arrival of it downstream, they ought to line up, right? The timings ought to be the same. So sure enough, shot one, no problemo, lines up perfectly. This is an echo up top there. Here's the echo down here for shot one. The top bullet is echoing off of whatever it's echoing up there near the stage. And this is echoing probably off of that building surface we just showed you. So shot one, 100%, we're good to go. Shot two, same thing, lines up perfectly. It's got an echo right here. That's that little peak right there. And it's got an echo up top. Everything lines up. Shot three, though, remember this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one doesn't line up. This one is actually, this shot happens about 0.03 seconds earlier. There's not alignment. It should be right under this peak, but it's not, which means the shot happened 0.03 seconds. It took 0.03 seconds longer for that bullet to get downstream, right? To the microphone in front of the Trump platform there. What does that mean? Well, that means that it's somewhere between, depending on the caliber and, maybe the caliber. I don't have any bullets here. I can't guarantee anything. Depending on a lot of things, the muzzle velocity of whatever this projectile was and things like that. That 0.03 seconds, assuming it's 2,600 feet per second, that's how fast this thing's traveling. Could be 2,500, could be 3,000. I don't know what they're using, so you have to make some guesses. But it's further away. This implies the possibility that shots 1 and 2, those are fired by crooks, but somebody about 78 to 100 feet further away took shot 3. Then shots 4 and 5 line up again perfectly, but shot 6, hey, that's off the mark again by the same amount.
So the first thing I observed is that none of these shots really line up perfectly. You see the dotted line there for the first one, but it is actually off a little bit comparing the two audios. The same for number 2. Here's a dotted line, and it is a little bit off. Then also the same for 3, like he pointed out. Difference is with this one, it's actually the 4 on the second audio compared to the first. But then if you look at 5 again, you see 5 is also off. Only 4 is lined up perfectly. So let's go back to the second video. And remember, this video was taken in approximately this area. Remember, Thomas was here. So this is a closer source compared to this area here. You know, immediately the camera changes direction. It goes from facing a tree. Again, note the swing. Swing. And then from this direction, the shot sounds different. So my contention is it's swinging of the camera that's affecting the microphone on the camera. The microphone presumably is not omnidirectional and hears a component of the shot differently depending on the direction it's pointed. It appears the camera pans to the right wildly to the building, the sloped building, you know who is laying on. So it's an equivalent of going from here, turning this direction with the direction of the camera mic now facing the source of the sound over here. And with the source now in front, due to Doppler effect, the pitch of the sound increases. Thus, the pitch of the blast is higher. Of course, a good challenge to this assumption is the fact that the individual holding the camera is not a vehicle, but is walking very slowly towards the sound source. Most of the discrepancy in pitch of the sound, I think, has to relate to the acoustics within the directional mic. That some audio signatures are picked up sooner on the second mic, I think can be explained by the relative closeness of the second mic source to the first mic source in comparison to the location of the shooter. Restated, the second mic source is closer to the shooter than the first mic source. Sound from the blast has a shorter distance to travel to reach the second audio source. Turning from this direction to this direction also affects the echo off this building, which also can impact the timing of the heard echoes. You heard a somewhat strange sound for the 6th blast.
And that last one, that's different. That's not the sniper shot. The sniper shot is another 10 seconds later. So I don't know what number 6 is.
So for number 6, there's a tweet put up by We the People stated, I ran audio through Adobe about 30 seconds. The initial volley sounds like 7 shots. One of the shots, or another one, clips the hydraulics on a forklift holding up a speaker. Then the 8th shot that sounds much closer to the audio is heard 15 seconds after the initial volley. So it's quite possible that odd sound we hear for number 6 is actually the hiss from the hydraulic, or it could be the forklift bottoming out. Number 8 is the counter fire from the counter snipers. In my view, if there was someone situated here or somewhere over here, There likely would be witnesses. Of course, it is possible the person was missed. There's a claim that there's an individual up here in a water tower. Here's a response by a uploader known as Ryan Dawson Clips. There was one shooter.
All right, gotta debunk some kook stuff again. They're acting like there's a second shooter, so here's the first one. I'll put it in, Crooks is there. Nobody's up there in the tree or whatever they think that is. So they are pretending like 2 bystanders were hit here. 3 bystanders were hit, by the way. Okay, this one in red doesn't matter because it's where they overlap and it's where the first shooter could hit him. This one is BS because nobody got hit here. The other bystanders were hit here and here, and Trump was hit about, which means these, him, and him were all hit in the line of fire from the first shooter. Nobody got hit in this corner. The film is of this and this. They're going to pretend it's otherwise. Nobody's up here. And you'd also have to shoot right through 2 Secret Service snipers for that to go. You'd have to be pretty high in the air. And the last one in this corner. Nobody got hit over here. They're lying to you. Crooks could hit all of these. They're all in a straight line as he's aiming at Trump.
I'll show you an animation that I find quite helpful, posted by Cool Blue. I'm not sure if this is the source of the animation in terms of its creation.
Here you can see the 3 victims that were injured by gunfire and where they were standing in the bleachers. We're going to turn around and demonstrate exactly where these bullets came from. This model represents Thomas Crooks. His position can be seen here in this image, which illustrates exactly where he was. Turning around, we can see the path of all the bullets that were fired from this location. I placed a 10-foot red disc downrange to represent what an average shooter could hit easily. Now let's take a look at this first shot fired. Coming from our key location, bullet 1 grazes President Trump's ear. This is the same bullet that hits a spectator in the stands. We know this through video evidence. As President Trump is talking, the first shot rings out just after he says, "Take a look at what happened."
Something to say. Take a look at what happened.
We can see the vapor trail of a bullet strike, which is the same bullet that struck President Trump's ear a split second earlier, and this video is this location here. Back at the podium, President Trump is shot and grabs his ear, falling to the ground as more shots rang out. In total, there were 7 or 8 shots, so let's rewind and watch this at regular speed.
Take a look at what happened.
With all that gunfire, it's easy to understand how these spectators were injured, even though they were not the target, including the sole spectator who lost his life that day. As we circle around, we can see how all the paths of the bullets were hitting in the location of this forklift machine, causing one of the hydraulic hoses to burst.
If evidence emerges that does support a second assailant, I will likely do an update. There are many fascinating improbabilities on this day that I think should be looked at in further detail from the standpoint of synchronicity theory or reality generation. Likely attempt to overanalyze God's work. If I do a second video, it will likely come right after this one. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think concerning if there are 1 or more assailants in the comments below. Thanks. Peace.